Greetings and salutations, friends. Welcome to another glorious day here at the Tango Hotel. And today, my friends, we will be talking about Aliens Dark Descent. That's right, in my brutally honest opinion of this game. Now, I want to go ahead and give you guys a heads up. It will contain spoilers, but I will be saving them for the second half of the video where we'll be talking about the story. So we will save all of the story spoilers for then. The first half of the review is going to be about the game itself, its elements, and the things that I like and dislike about it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just throw this out here because I know some people don't want to get into all the BS. And here's the thing. I like this game. It's very, very fun. And if you are a mega fan of Alien and the Aliens franchise, then I would highly recommend it, even with all of the bugs that it has. If you are not a mega fan, but you like this style of game, then I would recommend you give it a look and see if you like it. If you are neither, then I would recommend that you wait for bug fixes, because there are many game-breaking bugs that can just straight up break your game to where you cannot proceed anymore. And especially if you play it on some of the harder difficulty modes where you have less saves, then the game you will be unable to progress if you get one of these game-breaking bugs. So, with that out of the way, let's hop right in, boys. Alrighty, boys, here we are in Aliens Dark Descent. Now, there may be a few things that you might see that might spoil a little bit of the late game gameplay, but I tried really hard to make sure that wasn't the case, so we're just gonna continue on. I did not want to start a whole new game just to be able to show you what I'm about to show you, mainly due to the fact that there are story elements when you do missions, and I did not want the game talking over me while I'm trying to explain the gameplay to you, okay? All right, so
don't get too comfy, okay?
The gameplay in this game is absolutely, in my opinion, really, really strong. It is a little bit janky, but fighting the aliens is very, very,
coming to us.
Very fun. They are very tanky at the beginning, and you are not very good at killing them. And as you progress forward into the game, you get better weapons. Your soldiers get better, and they can do more and more. Look at that. And they can do more and more damage as the game progresses. And it is very, very fun to kill the Xenomorphs.
Light him up!
As you can see now, we have launched the hunt, and we will be discussing all of these mechanics here in just a minute. But for now, we're just going to kill this guy, and we're going to move on. Okay, so I have a lot of gripes about this game, and a lot of it comes down to basic UI stuff as well as gameplay mechanics. I want to state for the record that even though I am extremely critical of this game is extremely fun. As you can see, my dudes are using basic weapons, and we are able to tear apart these xenomorphs individually. When they come in huge hordes, it will be much, much more difficult to tear them down, especially while we're being hunted. And I am using relatively low-level soldiers because I didn't want to bring high-level dudes and spoil a bunch of stuff with as far as like class and weaponry goes. Although you can see it once you start the game, all the weapons you'll eventually be able to get. So, what are the problems that Aliens Dark Descent has with its actual gameplay? Well, let's get into it. So, one of the first things is that, as you notice, you can slow down the game with this menu. You press spacebar and it brings up your ability menu, which is controlled by which you can do certain amount of abilities, and you can use these command points here that recharge over time, and they recharge as you kill Xenos to use your abilities, including throwing a shotgun blast out for those, close encounters. You have the U1 grenade launcher, love that name, and the incinerator, which I will be showing off because it is amazing and is one of those amazingly good things that the game has that it does really, really well. Okay, we cannot stop the hunt from anywhere in here, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. This is an early game mission, so we'll just continue to roll on. One of the big issues I have with the pause is twofold. One of the biggest ones is the fact that when you press the space bar,
I think we're spotted.
It gets rid of your nameplates and the stress
They're heading
meters,
our way.
which can be a real big problem when you're trying to, say, do the ability called suppressive fire. So say I need to know who's got the biggest clip and who's got the most ammo in their clip. Well, it's Amazing Barrel right here, and he's got a really good gun that has a really badass clip. Big, huge, the biggest. And I want to make sure that he uses suppression. Can you tell which one is Amazing Barrel by looking at these? No, you cannot. Not only does it not show you their nameplates above their heads when you go into this menu, but it also gets rid of the nameplates down at the bottom of the screen when you're in this menu as well. And so, as you can see, Amazing Barrel, if you zoom in, he's got the big gun, which is really, really awesome. But it's really hard to see under stress when you've got a Xeno horde coming at you and you're trying to figure out which character you need to put suppression on. Now, obviously, you can tab through your dudes, but it still doesn't show their name. It doesn't show any of their stats or anything else. So when you're under pressure, it's really, really hard to determine what the correct person is. And it also works this way with the shotgun. As you can see, we have multiple shotguns in our group, so I can move them back and forth. Sometimes the reason this is important is because there are abilities that you cannot do if you are using another ability. So let's say I have a shotgun on one of my soldiers, but I want them to do another ability while someone else is using a shotgun. I can't at a glance tell which person is which, so I don't know if the sergeant in my group can cast his ability while he is doing his shotgun blast. Not only that, the grenade launcher is essentially the same. The U1 grenade launcher comes with the standard rifle. So if you don't have a standard rifle, you can't use the U1 grenade launcher. And if I want to use another ability while someone else is using a grenade launcher, I have to make sure that I select the right person to do that. It's not a big deal in most instances, but there are very, very intense battles where you want to make sure that you absolutely use the correct soldier in the correct instance so that you don't get yourself in trouble and have the Xenos run up in your face without all the BS that comes with that. Now,
move on.
It's not that big of a deal, but it is kind of weird that when you go to the pause menu, it completely gets rid of this UI instead of just putting it
More
above it
signals
up here.
incoming.
It's rather frustrating, in fact, that it does that. Not only that, there is also another element to this where, as you can see here, pause game. Choose between slow-mo or complete time pause when the skill menu is opened. I don't understand why there's not a third option, on, off, both, so that when you are in this menu, you can pause the game or do slow-mo. You press the button, it goes into slow-mo, and then you can press another button or click a button up here and actually pause the game so that you can actually take stock of the battlefield. It would be a very useful ability because while it's rare that I wanted to actually pause the game, there were instances where there was a lot going on, and I really just wanted to take stock of the battlefield without time moving too fast. And even in slow-mo, the time does move relatively fast enough to where you might not have time to completely understand a situation before you are essentially screwed. And so the ability to switch back and forth between pause and slow, you have to go to a menu option to do that, is very, very frustrating, especially considering that I like the pause menu and I would use it a lot to issue orders if there was a way to toggle between the two. And then I would fight in slow-mo, because fighting in slow-mo, as you saw earlier, is absolutely amazingly awesome. It is fun to do and it looks amazing when you're throwing the flamethrower, when you use the grenade launcher, when you use some of your other special abilities, including suppression. In slow motion, it very much feels like, a slowdown of an action movie, and you can see viscerally what's going on, and it makes for a very entertaining action set piece. And it happens all throughout the game, and it's very, very awesome. And it bugs me that you can't switch between the two so that you can pause the game, issue orders, take stock of what's going on, and then issue your orders, and then put it into slow-mo so you can watch the fight happen in slow motion. If you have it on pause, the moment you get done doing orders, you unpause and it's in full speed again, and the Xenos are very fast, and you might be pausing over and over and over again to react to what they're doing rather than keeping it in slow-mo so that you can watch the fight and issue orders as need be. I love the slow motion. It is very, very good. It speaks highly to this game that they were able to implement this kind of slow-mo feature and it not be buggy as hell. I have never, ever, ever had a problem at all with the slow-mo or the pause as a functional bit of the game. It always works. It never breaks. It can be a little bit wonky because the pause is not actually a full pause. It is an extreme slow-mo, and you see this later when in certain parts of the game where you have a clock going on. But other than that, there is no problems with it. Now, one of the biggest gripes I have with the slow-mo and the pause is that you see this right here. This is not a mini-map. What this is it's your motion tracker. So what that means, and the reason I say that is because you cannot make this bigger. You cannot zoom in and out. So it is always the same size, which is actually a problem for me because my poor eyesight, it's like I want it to be 50 to 100% bigger so I can see what's on it, and I want to be able to zoom in and out. Now, there is a feature in the game to increase, quote-unquote, the difficulty, where you turn off the mini-map option in this, and so it looks like one of the motion trackers from the movies where there is no terrain and the map isn't shown on there. But the problem I have with this system is that you see I'm in slow-mo, right? There is a very awesome map in this game. Very awesome mapping system. The problem is that if you're in slow-mo issuing orders and then you go to the map,
shit, they know we're here.
It turns off slow-mo. It's the same if you were to turn it on pause. Now we're gonna throw some suppressing fire out, which, like I said, look at this fight, dude. It's so awesome that it works this way. It's so very nice. And then we're gonna throw out a grenade, and look, you can actually see the grenade. Noob tubed out.
Oh yeah, don't mess with me.
Very, very good. Very, very visceral. You would miss this. If. Okay, let's cancel suppression. You would miss this if you were using pause and going back and forth between the real time and pause. You would miss a lot of this really cool action moments that you can see in this game. Okay, so let's go down here and get away from the
Come on,
hunt.
team.
So there is. So yes, the when you're in slow-mo and you go to the map, it breaks the slow-mo or it breaks the pause and you're instantly in full motion, which is kind of a bummer. I mean, strategically speaking, it's not that big of a deal, but it is kind of frustrating when I can't see the mini-map, right? Because it's so small, I have to like lean over and like stare at it to be able to see what's going on, or I have to sacrifice the fact that I'm in a slow motion mode so that I can actually react to everything that's going on, and then when I open the map to see if I'm being flanked, to see what else is going on the map that I might need to be concerned about while I'm fighting the Xenos that are coming at me, I'm sacrificing my slow motion or my pause, which is not a very, very fun thing in my opinion. And I wanted to tell you about this system as well. So there is a system where aliens can ambush you in the game, and it is quite a fun
heading our way.
little ditty. As you can see, the alien is in the vent, and if we walk over to it, he will detect us, and this bar comes up, and it will show that we are getting spotted. Now here's one of the weird parts. You don't see it on the map this way. So you can be walking along like this and looking at the map, and I did this often. It's probably not a good idea to do, but you will be looking at the map as you're walking on, and you're staring at the map because you clicked all the way over here, and you're just looking at the map, looking for motion, right? Looking for motion, look, there's a dude over there, you're looking for motion, and then you'll walk through this ambush, and it doesn't show up on the map for you. It doesn't give you any indication that you're walking into an ambush while you're on the map. This can be an issue. It's not that big of a deal. The real problem is that when you're doing double time and you're actually running your squad and you're watching for motion on the mini map, and a guy just appears the moment you're in range, and it's not actually letting you know before you walk in there, because RNG dictates that he literally appears as you walk by. And if you're running, it's almost instant detection when there's an ambush. So there is a bit of a problem with that. The Other
Shit,
problems with the
coming to
UI
us.
that I have are the fact that you get a drone, which is kind of awesome. It allows you to do all kinds of crazy stuff that alter the way you play the game. You can control the drone independently, which you can't do with any of your other squad members, by the way. And so it allows you to do scouting. Now, the Xenos will, for the most part, ignore the drone
Sending recon
in
drone.
most instances, unless you are actively engaging with the drone, which you can possibly do later, or they're doing AOE
Drone
attacks and
in
the drone
position.
just happens to get
Sending
hit,
recon
which you
drone.
will have to repair it. This is a thing. The problem with the drone is not that it's awesome, because it is. The problem with the drone is how you control it. It's the same menu that you control all of your abilities from. So you have to press spacebar, which slows down the game, which isn't that bad. Then you have to go over here and either press this button with your mouse, or I changed it to R because it's more convenient. And now you're in this menu. Then you click the button, and now you're controlling the drone.
Sending recon drone.
To now control your squad, you have to click this button, and it takes you back to the squad. So not that big of a deal. But when you're in the middle
Drone
of
in
combat
position.
and you're trying to move your drone for scouting purposes and trying to finagle in a way that you can not be detected, it is very frustrating to have to go back and forth between this nonsense right here, right? Especially when there's a UI element right here that should allow you to left or right click on this. See, as you can see, you can right click on it and it'll take you to where the drone is. Why is there not a drop down menu when clicking on this that allows you to take control of drone, return control to squad? I don't really understand why it's on this menu at all, when it would just be easier to do it like this. Just click on the damn thing and you can take control of it. Click on it again and you can take control of your squad. It would be so much easier for that to be the case. But it's a small gripe. Although, like I said, later in the game, when you're under a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stealth elements to this game. So you're gonna spend the vast majority of your time not engaging
Drone
the
required.
aliens, because if you do, your squad is gonna die horribly. Not only will they lose massive amounts of health over time, the Xenos will eventually wear you down, but you'll also gain massive amounts of stress, which can negatively affect your squad members in a very, very bad way, especially on the mission itself, where they gain debuffs as time goes on and their stress builds up to the point where they are unable to function properly. They'll lose accuracy.
Too quiet.
They will gain negative traits that will make everybody else gain more stress. They will not be able to handle dealing with the aliens.
Come on,
there are
team.
all kinds of negative effects, and the negative effects can persist into the strategy layer, where you have to remove these negative effects that can
I
cause all
have
kinds
multiple
of problems
signals.
on the ship. Which isn't a bad thing. I actually quite like the stress system. I didn't at first, so if you are not liking the stress system on the first and the second mission, or specifically on the first mission, I highly recommend you just soldier up and
Got something on the
keep
tracker.
pushing on. It gets way better because you get abilities that allow you to deal with it more, and there are more and more opportunities to deal with the stress in and of itself. Not only that, as a little hint, maybe you don't know this, but you can use medicine to relieve stress. It costs 1 medicine and it relieves 100 points of stress. So if somebody is like super stressed out and you don't have access to a place to rest, which is like one of these places, there's places on the map, you go in there, you weld up a door, and then you can rest. Maybe we'll show some of that here in just a second.
I have multiple signals.
There is one
Hang on.
over here.
All right, it's
so
coming.
we will check it
Move
out
on.
now. We will check it out presently. Okay.
Hurry up, squad.
Like I said, this game is very, very, very fun in its base
I have
game, and I
multiple signals.
will praise the devs up and down for doing a job well done. It is a very well done game for what it is. It's can be a little janky, but for the most part, that's not a big deal, especially considering how well the game plays. Its biggest detraction, in my honest opinion, are the bugs. There are many, many, many game-breaking bugs. Now, as you can see, I can weld this door for one of the tools, and it will allow me to rest, which will get rid of my stress, and it will allow me to save. even on the hardest difficulty, this is one of the only ways to, on the hardest difficulty, this is one of the only ways to save while you're on a mission. So you rest, it brings up this menu, relieve stress, it gives you ammo, and there are abilities that you get that augment this, like resourcefulness, as you can see, gives me ammo, which is awesome. It goes through this, which isn't that big of a deal. Sometimes all of them do the same animation. It's a little bit wonky, but it's whatever. My biggest gripe with this entire system is the fact that tools are very rare on the map, and to bring them along, you have to use resources from your ship that you collect, that you use to buy upgrades for everyone that used to buy weapons. You have to use those resources if you want to make sure that you have enough tools when you come on a map. Tools are used for so many things. You can reactivate robots. You can repair certain things on the map with them. There are certain doors that you can open with them, and you use them as save points to save and to heal your stress.
Come on, people.
And so there are so many uses for them, yet they feel so rare in the game that it almost feels like you never want to use them for all of the cool stuff you can use them for, because you want to make sure that you have them saved for this specific thing right here. And there's another thing you can use them for as well. There are turrets in the game, which are awesome. I love the fact that there are sentry guns in the game. Ready. But if you are fighting the aliens, and the aliens will attack your sentry guns, and sometimes they'll attack your sentry gun, sometimes they'll attack you. If you leave your sentry gun out on the open by itself, they will attack the sentry gun, and the only way to fix it once it's broken, and it will break, is to use a tool. So again, that's another thing you can use. Not only that, later in the game, you get the ability to upgrade the turret. No Marine has the Sentry Overguard ability. This is a class ability, and it allows you to use a tool to upgrade it. And that sounds really awesome, but one thing is it's not permanent, it's time-based. And two, it costs a fucking tool, which is just another use for your limited supply of tools. Now, it is a very strategic thing that you can do right now, but like I said, because you use it specifically to save, it doesn't feel very strategic. It feels like I have to save as many tools as possible so that I have the ability to rest and recuperate when I need to. It does lean in a little bit to the fact that in this game you're supposed to do multiple deployments. You're not supposed to be able to do everything on a mission, or at least you're not supposed to do everything on a mission on a single deployment, which is one of the reasons why. Oh, that's really bad.
Move on.
Which is one of the reasons why I think we should. All right, come on. Nice, we dodged it. Which is one of the reasons why. That was Harry. Which is one of the reasons why the limited tools is not that bad. It just feels like there needs to be another mechanism to weld the doors. I don't like the fact that you use tools for it, and that there's no you can't make tools while you're out on mission. If you don't find them, then they're not there. It's a very weird thing, and it could be better is all I'm putting down for that. Now, there is also an interesting game mechanic in here with ammo. Ammo is a very interesting game mechanic, and you're thinking, well, it's just ammo, right? Yeah, that's true, but you find ammo on the map. Now, I believe there's no ammo on the map currently because I've gotten it all, but on most missions, you will find ammunition all over the map. And what this means is that you'll just be able to pick it up and it'll increase. You can only bring so much ammo on the map with you when you start. It's one per soldier unless you have an ability or an upgrade that allows you to carry more. That's not really the problem. The problem is that when you find ammo on the map and you pick it up, you can hold as much ammo as you want. If I'm not mistaken, does it say where it is? No, it does not. Okay, so
what's next? Camping? Move it or lose it.
You can hold as much ammo as you can pick up. So and it goes up to 99. So if there were 50 ammo crates at the beginning of the map, you could pick all of them up. The problem is that if you have to leave because your squad is getting destroyed and you're running out of meds and you're stressed out and you're running out of tools, so you can't, go in here and rest, and you need to leave and come back on another deployment. All the ammo that you picked up on the map is now gone.
Come on, people, you know what we came for.
And that can be very detrimental for your later deployments when you might need that ammo for the harder stuff that's going to come later on that mission. So essentially, there's 100 ammo on the map. You pick up 99 of it on your first deployment, and then on the second deployment, you have none of it, and you're going to run out of ammo. It's very, very weird that that the ammo doesn't at least stay on the mission in your like APC, for instance. It's a very weird system that they've chosen. I kind of understand why they only want you to bring so much ammo on a map, but the fact that when you pick up ammo on the map, you can't bring it back to that specific map via like the APC or something is kind of weird. You get what I'm saying? So it's one of those systems that's like you have to metagame,
More signatures spotted.
and it kind of pulls you out of the game, it feels like, because you're like, oh, I need to save that ammo for my next
Come on,
deployment.
people, you know what we came for.
When in an authentically, realistic kind of way, I hate using realism, that's why I use authentic. In an authentic way, you would just pick it up and you would be able to put it on like your APC, and then you just bring it back, and your dudes would just bring it back on the next mission. So when your next squad comes for their next deployment, they would just have it in their inventory, on top of the ammo that they bring naturally. Because you can carry 100 clips of ammo on your dudes. You just can't bring it with you for some reason. It's mind-boggling. It says you can only carry 1 ammo per person, but once you're on a map, you can carry as many as the barrel filled up for. So I believe the limit is actually 99, and it's a very weird system that they have going on here. Now, another thing that ties into this is it means that you could potentially absolutely screw yourself if you're not aware of this fact. And one of the reasons that might be is because there are certain things on the map. Let me see if I can find one. I might have destroyed them all already. There are certain parts of the map that have destructible walls, for instance, or things like that.
Bring them down.
Nice. There are certain places on the map that have destructible walls, and to blow up the walls, you use an ammo clip, which is kind of weird, but it's basically considered an explosive, and the game wants you to use them as explosives. So there are certain missions where there's ammo all over the place because there's you need to do demolition charges everywhere. And the problem with that is that if you're not aware of this system and you collect them all on your first deployment, when you go on your next deployment, you're not going to have enough ammo to fight the Xeno and destroy those demolition barriers on top of it. It's just a very weird system. And one of the biggest things that I am hopeful for this game is that mods will correct a lot of these issues or fix them in a way that will make the game more fun and less wonky, in my opinion. Here we go. Another system that is very, very odd is the hunted system. Anytime you engage with a xenomorph,
shit, it's coming to us.
And they detect you.
Contact! Kill it! Kill it!
You will initiate a hunt. And so when that happens, all of the Xenos will then come to that location where you were last spotted, and they will come to try to hunt you down. And so this was the last place I was detected, right? So what that means is that they're all going to come here. Now let's say I left this building and I came over here, but I was detected again while the hunt was going on. They would then come to that location to try to find me. And while a hunt is going on, detection is instantaneous, which is fine. This is not the problem I have with the hunt. The problem I have with the hunt is there's no cooldown for it, number one. And number two, there is a problem that once the hunt is over, like you saw the bar, it'll go down.
Tango, straight ahead.
I was gonna say we'll see it in a minute. We're gonna throw up some flames here for the lulz to show it off because it's a very awesome ability. Yeah, extra crispy, baby. So what happens is that once the Xenos stop detecting you, there's a little bar that shows how the progression of the hunt.
It's a drone. Kill it! Kill it!
Tango down.
And this will slowly go down over time as your aggressiveness goes up. One of the biggest problems with this hunt system is that once the hunt is all the way gone, the Xenos are still roaming around. So imagine you were being hunted and you kill all the aliens and the hunt is now gone. Just like it's about to happen right here. The hunt is now, and the hunt disappears. The hunt bar goes all the way down. You're now undetected. but there's still a Xeno walking around out here, and he just happens to walk through this door. As soon as he sees you, another hunt is initiated. So there is no cooldown for it. Not only that, one of the biggest problems I have with the fact that one of the biggest problems I have with the detection in this game is that it's 100% if you get detected, a hunt will start. And the problem I have with that is the Xenomorphs are not telepathic. So far as I know, I don't believe they are. I believe they communicate via chemical and sound. So it boggles my mind that if you encounter a Xenomorph and almost instantly give it, because let's say you get lucky, you crit it, you get a critical hit, and you're able to take it out almost instantaneously, the hunt still happens. It doesn't stop the hunt from happening. The only way to do that is to kill it before being detected, which there are ways to do, but they use command points and they're very hard. Not only that, anytime you fire guns that make noise, it will attract the attention of the Xenos and they will come to investigate if they're within range of your motion detector. Basically, anything in range of your motion detector can hear you. So if you fire your guns, they will see you. If you come upon a clutch of eggs and you gun them down, it won't necessarily detect you for that, but you might be detected because other aliens can hear you shooting at them, and then they'll come and investigate. So that is essentially all the issues that I have with the systems in this game that concern
I don't hear them
missions.
anymore. We're clear.
I will say the AI is kind of wonky, especially when you start fighting non-aliens. I'm not going to get into much of that right now, but it is a bit weird the way that works. The aliens also are the aliens in general are just very unfair. As you saw, that was damn near instantaneous detection. But we did shoot at him, and we're on a hunt, and he's a runner, so that helps too.
That gun is a frickin' lawnmower.
There are spots on the map, like right here and right here.
I think we made them angry.
So now we've got to deal with an onslaught.
Move on.
So
Hurry up,
we're gonna show you this. This is a pretty awesome part of the game. So we're gonna get into our stuff here. All right, we got full command points, so we're just gonna go ahead and burn one with the shotgun.
Watch out!
There it is.
Burns!
Bada boom, baby. Bada boom. So an onslaught is when when aggressiveness gets high enough, the Xenos are like, okay, we're gonna come kill you all. So you need to go find a place to chill out and bunker up, because they will come to where you are no matter where you are on the map, even if you're, because you'll just remain detected, so they'll know where you are. And so you want to hunker down and do as much,
almost ready,
and put as much stuff up as you can. Now this is not the best room for this because it's so small, but you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. Now there are many rooms, places on the map where Xenos spawn. One of the biggest problems I have with the system, the spawn system in and of itself, is not only can you not destroy the spawn points, but there are many times in the game where you're forced to walk by them completely exposed, and RNG of the map will literally spawn one right on top of you. Sometimes, a lot of times it doesn't happen. You'll reload and you'll walk by it 5 times, and then the next time you walk by it, boom, a dude just pops out while you're right there. And it makes sense that it's just random, but it feels very, very bad when you're trying to maintain stealth and all this other stuff, and it just happens to, F you, and it's not very fun if you're getting what I'm putting down here. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're gonna throw up another one because this is gonna be bad. All right, how is our ammo? Not doing too hot. We got one clip left, so we're probably gonna have to leave after this onslaught. And so this comes down to the problem I was talking about before. I want to suppressing fire this door, but if I want to use the guy with the big gun, who's got a big fat clip, I have to.
They really want this opened.
I have to zoom in to look at his kit rather than looking at his name and knowing, oh, that's amazing barrel. He's the guy I want to do that. As you can see, they're slowly breaking down the door, and you can see on the mini map there is a huge wave of dudes. What this will do is it'll basically make them all bunch up in front of the door, which is exactly the thing you want to do. Later, you get mines, which are very, very useful. I wouldn't be able to use them in here because I'm so close to the door. It wouldn't go off. The mines won't go off if your troops are standing next to them because it would kill them instantly. So yeah, the fact that you can't it would be like I said, the problem I have with the actual spawn points is that there is none of them you can destroy. They are indestructible features of the map, which kind of sucks considering they're like tunnels to the hive. There's some of them you should be able to destroy the same way you blow up walls or such. You use demolition charges, and that way you can strategically destroy some of them, but not all of them. Some of them should be permanent. Obviously, that should be the way it is for onslaughts and other reasons. But there definitely should be ones that are not. All right, as soon as this door breaks, we're gonna flamethrower. It's so good. Now the problem is that they're so close that killing them like this will do acid damage to us. I really like this acid system. It's very good. It's very, very in the vein of the actual game, and I'm a big fan.
Seems like things are calming down.
Look at that.
Good for us.
Nice. And it goes back to a hunt, which I don't really appreciate because you just killed a huge wave of Xenos. And they shouldn't still be hunting you, in my opinion, and increasing aggressiveness, simply because you destroyed so many of them that now the hive has to retreat to like recuperate. Although it is kind of the thing that it does kind of work. There are no Xenos usually on the map patrolling right after that, but that's the other case. Okay, so I think we're about done.
How about you deal with that stress
complaining
squad?
About what's going on in this game. So now let's go ahead and talk about deployment, and then we'll move on to the story. Here we are on the ship. Now this is not too spoilery. Don't worry about none of this. I will try to blur a lot of this stuff out, so no worries about it. Most of this stuff you can kind of guess of what happens anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Anything that actually is a story spoiler, I will blur, so no worries. So here's the thing that I have a problem with on the ship. This bugs me about a lot of games, is that they have this huge screen space and they don't make use of it. I appreciate the fact that we have dudes in the background and there's movement and all kinds of other stuff, but that should be it shouldn't be the default when you're looking at your dudes or going through menus or doing all the other stuff that you got to do. Most of the screen space shouldn't be taken up by this. What should be the case is that when you click on the barracks button or any of these other buttons where it takes you to the space, is that when you first enter the space, this should be the default, and then you should have sub-menus like Armory, and you click on that, and then it allows you to look at your soldiers, and then it's a huge menu open with this going on in the background. It's a waste of space, and in my opinion, it's a bad decision. Mainly because the game doesn't actually give you all of the information that you really need at your fingertips. You have to like click on buttons and go to different menus to actually see everything that you need to do. For instance, if I want to look at this, he is tired and he is wounded. But notice that it doesn't show you how wounded he is or how tired he is. If you want to know that, you have to click on it.
What did I teach you, Marine?
It also doesn't show you. It also only gives you icons for his attributes that you can't hover over. If you want to specifically see what those icons mean, you still have to click on them. Then it blocks the menu behind it and shows you this great element where you've got the picture of the dude. You can customize them, you can name them. Shows you their experience. Very, very well done here. Shows you how much health they have. Shows you all their stats, their carrying capacity. Very good. How tired they are, whether they're exhausted, how wounded they are, and it even will show you trauma that they're suffering from, if they have any trauma from stress. Let's see, is there anybody that has trauma from stress? Not that I can see. Yeah, it doesn't look like I do. So we'll talk about that later.
Marine? Salute.
But this UI right here is very, very awesome and is very useful. It literally shows you everything. Everything has a little menu, tells you exactly what it does. This is great. The problem I have is that it should tell you some of this on this menu as well. It should tell you how bad the wound is, how tired they are if they're tired, and how long the exhaustion is going to be for. I can understand them not allowing you to use context menus to hover over it, considering they have this, and you can change all of their guns and stuff here. We'll worry about that later. But it's just a pet peeve that it's like that. Not only that,
You can count on them, ma'am.
If you're anywhere else in the game, it doesn't actually give you any of their other stats. Like, for instance, Amazing Barrel is wounded for 6 days. This is the med quarters. He's wounded for 6 days. And he's also tired. But it doesn't tell me how tired he is. It doesn't tell me how long he's tired for. It only tells me that he's wounded for 6 days. There is no other UI information that this gives, and it's extremely frustrating to have to click on every single menu to bring this up so that you can see it. It is kind of cool that you can do this, don't get me wrong, and I appreciate that fact. But still, it's very frustrating when you're trying to get through the menus and build your squad. And specifically, when you are trying to deploy. Now, this screen, I'm gonna have to. This is gonna be blurred over here, so no worries about that. This is the real pet peeve that I have with the menus. Everything else is just kind of like meh. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. I can suck it up and deal with it. This is the problem I have.
Operations ready.
We're also going to blur most of this planet because you don't want to see any of this. When I go to the click a deployment, and then I have to click select deployment. Then not only do you have to click select deployment, you then have to click on a place where you want to land on the map. That's fine, right? No big deal. Now I want to build my squad. Okay, it's time to build the squad. So what are we going to do when we're building the squad? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to look at all of our abilities. Oh, look at Latimer. Latimer doesn't have any upgrades. I would like to buy some upgrades for Latimer. I have a bunch of supplies. I can totally buy upgrades. But look, I can't actually buy upgrades from this menu. If I want to buy upgrades for a person while they're here, I have to go back to the select. I have to go back all the way to the ship menus. I cannot do it from here. You also cannot look at their actual character sheet while you're here. You can only do this. So you cannot see you can't see their accuracy. You can't see how much bravery they have, which affects how much stress damage they take. You can't see all the stuff that you could see in the barracks. You can't see that here. You also can't buy upgrades. You can only do that in the barracks, which is very frustrating when I'm trying to build a squad and I'm like, oh, I need to buy an upgrade for this dude because I want to buy an upgrade for him. It's very hard to...
Hello, Administrator Hayes.
It's very frustrating and difficult to try to build a squad in this menu when it only shows 1, 2, 3, 4 dudes at a time, or 5 if you're half in and out, right? So it's like I want to build a squad, but I've got this giant scroll menu instead of a button right here where I can build squad. Maybe like a pre-deployment screen or something like that, where I can be like, okay, I want this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy on my next mission, and then when I go to the command deck, and then when I click the deployment screen, and when it finally gets to the squad select, the pre-deployment screen is the squad that I selected.
Have a nice day.
That would be great, because the only place that you can buy upgrades is right here. As you can see, you can buy them easily, but on the deployment menu, you can't. And it's very, very frustrating. You also can't see how much bravery they have, which affects the stress damage they take. You can't see their accuracy. You can't see their armor. You can't see the individual's carrying capacity unless you know exactly what these icons mean that they have, right? So you can carry 2 med kits, and I'm assuming that is because they have pouches. So if you don't know what that means and you don't hover over it, you won't know how much they can carry just by default. It's one of those UI elements that really, really, really makes it frustrating when I'm trying to get to the next mission because I want to have fun playing the fun part of the game, which is shooting Xenos. Alrighty, dudes, this is going to be the part of the video where we are going to talk about story. And I'm not going to get too deep into the details. I'm only going to hit the high points. The first thing we're going to talk about, however, is we're going to talk about how good the story actually is, because it is a very well done story for the most part. It hits all the story beats. It hits all the tropes from the Alien franchise. Absolutely 100%. It has the tragic Marine with the tragic family backstory. It has the strong female, lead that's, straight out of Ripley. It has an extremely diverse cast of characters that are not shoehorned in. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it because we do this on my channel on occasion. We talk about wokeness and all the culture war BS that goes on. And while there are a lot of, like I said, diverse characters, there are many female characters in power roles specifically. It's not woke at all. And what I mean by that is, and if you've watched my channel and you've watched my content, you know what I mean by woke. What I mean by woke is not diverse. That's not what woke is. Woke is when you take a Marxist lens, i.e. communist lens, and you use that worldview or that lens that you see the world through to write and create characters based on modern gender politics specifically and racial politics specifically in the United States of America. Now it has bled over to Europe and a few other places, but it's mostly here in the US. And what I mean by that is that in a woke game, you would not only have an extremely diverse cast of characters, but almost all of the bad guys are going to be white men, and almost all of the good guys are going to be non-white, non-men, specifically. And not only that, they will have tropey, badly written, self-insert characters that denigrate other characters to make themselves appear as if they are better than they actually are. One of the biggest is Rey from Star Wars, is a great example of a woke character where they have to denigrate other characters to uplift her instead of making her have her own story that is better. And this game does not do that at all. It is 100%, in my opinion, fairly good writing. Now, I am not the long man, and I am not, I do not drink enough to be super critical of a lot of story elements when it comes to video games and movies and stuff like that. But in this game, it really feels like it's in the Alien universe. And the reason I say that is because this is the United States Colonial Marines and Weyland-Yutani Corporation that is based in the United States. So you have United States demographics in the year, I believe it's like 2500. So of course you're going to have an extremely diverse cast of characters where you have men and women of all backgrounds, skin colors, ethnicities, all that bullshit. And of course they're going to be everywhere because it's based on United States demographics. But it's in the 25th or whatever century they're in, so they've moved past all of the bullshit that we're going through now. They're not fighting the culture war, the gender war, whatever you want to call it, in the year 2500. That's just not happening. And it's obvious that that's not happening because none of it is ever even brought up. And one of the few times where you could have had a character where the writing was on the wall, where the character could have done the whole, oh, you're a man and I'm a woman and, I'm super empowered and all that other bullshit that usually goes on with woke writing, they completely, instead of doing that, they pulled a Vasquez moment from Aliens where a dude was insulting a woman and the woman gave it right back to his face, hands down, like straight up, like I said, it channels this entire game and its story, channels the Alien franchise like I've never seen in an actual video game. Even in like Alien versus Predator, it really does the franchise justice, and the devs really could have like fluffed this up really bad, but they did not. And I praise them for their choices in this game because it's really, really well done for what it is. Now, there's problems I do have with the story. Obviously, I wouldn't be going on and on about it, but overall, the story is very, very well done. Like I said, there are parts I don't like, but that's just because I disagree with the direction, and it feels very safe. Every trope you could possibly imagine for fantasy, sci-fi, military shooter in the future is in this game, and most of them are already in the franchise. You have the strong female lead. You have the tragic Marine backstory with the tragic family backstory. You have the corpo. You have the the tropey black sergeant guy who is hardcore as hell and very awesome, who also has a tragic backstory. Well, we don't need to get into that. That's a thing you can worry about yourself. You have the evil scientist bro who betrays everyone. You have the incompetent administrator who dies at the very beginning. You have another evil scientist guy. He's not evil per se, but he is an opportunist, and therefore he works on that, and he betrays people and all the other kind of things. And you have all of the tropes that are in the series, including this guy who is the dumb crayon-eating Marine with a heart of gold and an absolute sense of honor, and he's a badass. You have all those tropes here, and it does feel like it plays it fairly safe with those, and that's fine. My biggest problems with the story come from dealing with the fact that there's two big problems I have with the story. One is the fact that at some point the story is made about this character's daughter, which is just mind-boggling to me. Like, I understand that you can have that as a side story, but the whole point of the game is for us to get off the planet before it gets blown up because of some containment thing, right? Okay. And then at some point it shifts to all about his daughter, and they literally make the game all about the daughter because she then becomes the focal point of the entire game because reasons. And I mean, it's not that bad. They did a fairly good job by building it up and making it actually fit. So I give them props on that. I just didn't like the direction because it felt like it was taking the badassery of fighting the aliens and dealing with the xenomorphs themselves, and now it's all, oh, you know, and then it's shifted to, oh yeah, Corpo's super bad, you know, humans are the real bad guys, and we gotta save everyone we can, including this, you know, little girl. She's technically an adult, but that's beside the point. And it felt like it just took me out of the story in a way that I didn't appreciate. The other critique that I have for the story is at several points in the game, it does the thing that games like this do that I don't like. XCOM does this a little bit too with some of the base missions where you get invaded, specifically XCOM 2012. But in this game, at a certain point in the story, bad-ish will happen, and it's completely out of your control, and it takes you out of your normal mission parameters, and it puts you back on the ship, and you've got to do some weird single character running around and stuff. It's not that bad, but it feels like it takes away from the main meat of the game, where the real fun of the game really strives from, in the fact that you're fighting with a squad of Marines. Now, at the beginning of the game, you have to do this because it's a tutorial, and that's fine. But when you have to do it in the middle of the game for story reasons, it feels kind of bad, when they could have just made it also a version of the squad-based thing where you take some of your dudes and do some stuff. But that's, you know. But also it does it at the very end of the game where, unlike XCOM 2 or XCOM 1, where you have a big final mission, and that's the end of the game, the big final mission for this game is not the end of the game. The big final mission where you take your best dudes and you go on deployment and you know, go through the Xenos, you know, hive and blow up all kinds of stuff, kill so many aliens, so many xenomorphs die. And it's actually quite hard, and they make it really frustrating because of how the levels are built with all the spawn points and just how ridiculous it is. All that aside, that's not the end of the game. In the final holdout, where you are holding out against a huge like wave after wave after wave of Xenos, is not actually that engaging. It's not that fun. It's very disappointing. It's very lackluster. There's not enough Xenos. They come from every conceivable direction, which makes it more frustrating than fun. And it's actually not that hard once you figure out what you need to do with it. But that's still not the end of the game. The end of the game is a mission that completely and utterly takes away everything you've done throughout the entire game, and the strong female lead with the two strong male leads, just those three characters are by themselves going through a huge story mission. Now, I will say that the very beginning of the mission is actually quite fun because you don't have any command points and you have infinite shotgun and infinite grenade, which is actually quite fun. Because it is actually really, really fun to spam grenades at aliens and shotguns and aliens, but that doesn't last very long. And then at the very end, it's simply you running away from a giant mega boss xenomorph that you don't actually get to fight. So it's very, very, very... It's supposed to be hugely climactic and supposed to wrap the story up, but it feels very anticlimactic because you spent the entire game building up this big repertoire of soldiers, many of them who don't even get to max level. Most of them don't, only have 2 max level characters. And I'm playing on the harder difficulty, which means you're having to do more deployments and spread that experience out a little bit more. So, and I heard you get more experience from stuff on harder difficulties. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. But beside the point is that you do all of that work to get your dudes built up, and then you do the final mission, final deployment. That's what it, and they even tell you it's the final mission. This is it. We're ready to go, but we got to go do this. And you do the mission, and when it's over, you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to go down the elevator, and we're going to go into the Xeno City, and then it's just the three main characters. And you're just like, well, that's kind of disappointing. It is fun because they absolutely slaughter the Xeno when they're fighting them. And you, like I said, you get, infinite shotguns, infinite U1 grenade launchers, which is fun because it's fun to play. But after the novelty wears off, it's just kind of like, well, what's the point? It feels like all the work that I did is for nothing when the final mission, the actual final mission, is done by main characters. I think it would have been a much better decision to just simply have the strong female lead join your squad of Marines and go down and do this mission like that, and just have more aliens that are harder so that your entire squad can just burn through them. And then you don't, and have the same mission setup where there are no command points, so you don't run out of grenade launchers or shotguns, and have infinite ammo. That would have been cool. Just get rid of the system just for this, for story's sake. It would have been kind of taking you aback, but I still think it would have been fun to have your entire squad so that your actual badass dudes that you want to bring can come and really, really lay into the Xenomorphs. And it really feels very, very bad that they did this. And I can't, it feels like I lack the ability to describe why it feels this way. I know that it feels this way, but I lack the ability to critique it properly because I'm ignorant when it comes to actual good writing and stuff like that. You can feel good writing. You can sense it in your bones and, emotionally. And something about this just took me out of the game. It made me feel very disappointed that it wasn't the characters that I built up, the customizable characters that I had made from, especially the customizable characters that I had made from my community on my stream, to where, I built them up. Many of them almost died. Then we went through all this hardship and trauma, and they're just not even here for the final mission. And it feels very, very disappointing. And it's very hard for me to describe why. And it's not that it's bad, because the story mission in and of itself is actually kind of fun for the first half. The second half is very not fun, in my opinion, because you're literally just running from a boss mob and you're not actually able to fight it. And that just, like I said, it just feels like all control is gone except for you clicking and running away. And then the absolute biggest critique I have of the story, 100%, this is just insanely dumb, in my opinion, is the fact that there is a doom clock in this game.
Hello, Administrator Hayes.
And it says 10 days until the planet is destroyed. I don't need to get into what all this means, but essentially you have 10 days. So you can move to the next day or you can deploy. If you finish the final mission with 10 days left, at the very end of the Xeno City mission, after you've done all the stuff that I just talked about, it does a cutscene with you escaping the planet as the planetary bombardment is happening, even though it's supposed to be 10 days away. I know it's supposed to create this, I know what they wanted to do. They wanted to create this sense of, oh, you're getting out at just the last minute, but it is so dumb when it's 10 days from orbital bombardment with nukes that's going to wipe out all life on the planet. And then you're leaving the planet and the nukes fall anyway. And it's just like, why? Why did you do this game? It would have made so much more sense if you had more than one day for it to just show you leaving the planet and do that cutscene, and then after you leave, it shows them nuking the planet. That would have made a whole lot more sense. I guess they just only wanted to make one cutscene, but it still feels very, very bad for you to be like, it just doesn't make narrative sense when this game has such a well done narrative. Like I said, I have problems with it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't fairly well written. That's the biggest thing. I don't like it personally, but in my opinion, it is still actually fairly well done, right? The writing is decent. The dialogue is absolutely superb. Hands down, it feels like you are in the Alien universe. And there are many, many times in this game when characters are talking to one another, and it absolutely feels like I'm watching an Alien movie because they're talking ish to one another. The military command structure is in place, and they're actually being reprimanded for talking too much ish, and they're being and being reprimanded for talking back, or being told to quiet down from the side conversations and stuff like that. And even the dialogue between the Marines and the Corpos, and the Corpos and the Corpos, it feels very much like an Alien movie. It does lean very hard into the Corpos are bad, which 100% I agree with, but it still leans very hard into that. But it leaves a little bit of nuance left because our main lady here is a Corpo. So, in conclusion, my dudes, if you are a fan of the Alien franchise, or you are a fan of this type of game, then I highly recommend that you at least give it a look, if not a buy. Because I have a feeling, and the devs have been making hot fixes and updates and stuff, that it will get better as time goes on. If you are not one of those two things, then I highly recommend that you wait, or at the very least go watch somebody, my stream specifically, if you want, or somebody else that you may like who is playing the game, so that you can get a sense of whether you think you would like it as well. Again, be prepared that you may encounter game-breaking bugs, and there are several of them all throughout the campaign. Not just on the first mission. There is one on the second mission, there's one on the third mission, there's one on the fifth mission, there's one on the eighth mission. So there are, and they are very, very bad, to the point where it may break your game so hard you can't actually continue onward, especially if you have the limited save option on for the harder difficulty. So if you do buy it and you do play it, even if you want to play on the harder difficulty, I highly recommend that you keep the permissive saves so that you don't screw yourself over, because you will not like it. All that being said, this game, in my opinion, is a great game that is bogged down by bad decisions when it comes to UI as well as bugs. So if there were no bugs in this game, it would be a very good game, almost a great game. And I do believe that as time goes on, it may become a great game, especially if the devs open the game up to modding. XCOM, one of my favorite games of all time, XCOM 2, is the game that it is because of mods. I play Long War of the Chosen religiously. Because of mods, I still play XCOM years later, years after I stopped playing it regularly, because of the mods. And especially because I stream. And so if they were to implement modding for this game, a lot of the problems that I have with the game could be alleviated through mods. So the devs wouldn't have to change their vision at all for the game itself, and they would actually be able to allow the community to fix the problems they have with the game. Because again, these aren't necessarily problems in and of themselves. I just feel they're bad decisions, especially when it comes to the UI, the ability to buy upgrades and the deployment screen. That should absolutely be the case. I shouldn't have to go to the deployment screen, realize I forgot to buy an upgrade, and then have to go back 3 or 4 menus to be able to buy that upgrade. And not only do I have to go back 3 or 4 menus, I can't just hit escape and it goes back to the ship, I have to click the back button, wait for it to load, click the back button, wait for it to load, click the back button, wait for it to load, and now I can then click on the barracks and then go buy those upgrades. So it's, so much frustration just to do a simple thing when it should just be able to be done on that screen specifically. Again, a lot of these elements can be fixed through mods, just like the problems I have with the hunting mechanic, just like the problems I have with the UI on the tactical level, where it gets rid of your nameplates, so you can't see which soldier you're selecting for a specific ability outside of just their avatar. You can't actually see their name, which is very problematic in and of itself, especially when you're in a firefight and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and there's so many elements going on the screen, and you're just like, what the hell? So a lot of these issues could absolutely be fixed by mods, and I hope that they do that. So, my dudes, thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate you sticking with me through the end. I know it's been a fairly long video, but I wanted to give my true, honest, full-throated opinion in one stream of consciousness, essentially, because I've said a lot of this stuff on my stream, but I wanted to make sure I got it out in video form. So just in case you wanted to hear my thoughts on this, you have them now. So thank you very much for being here. I very much appreciate you, and I will see you guys next time here at the Tango Hotel. And remember, my dudes, I stream every single day at around 4 p.m. Central Standard Time at twitch.tv/Tango Hotel. That's twitch.tv/Tango Hotel. All right, my dudes, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor, and I'll see you next time, boys. Peace out.